Everything you've been told about how reality works has been built on an invisible assumption that the outside world is separate from you, that the events that unfold around you are random, that luck decides what happens, that circumstances dictate your story. But what if it's the other way around? What if the field around you is not separate, not distant, but listening closely to what you broadcast into it? Most people are unaware that the universe doesn't respond to their words, their wishes, or even their surface-level intentions. It responds to something far more powerful, something that cannot be faked or forced. It responds to frequency. Imagine walking into a room full of tuning forks. If you strike one at a certain pitch, only the forks vibrating at that same frequency will begin to resonate. They don't have to be touched. They don't have to be forced. They simply respond. The quantum field is like that room, but infinitely more sensitive. It doesn't pick up your ideas, it picks up your state of being. It doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you are an energetic match for. This is why two people can say the exact same affirmation, yet get entirely different results. One person speaks from alignment, the other from lack. The field knows the difference, because frequency can't lie. You've probably experienced moments where things just seem to flow. You think of someone and they call. You decide something is going to work out, and suddenly the pieces rearrange themselves. Those are not coincidences. That's resonance. That's the quantum field reflecting your inner state back to you with precision. The problem is, most people only stumble into that state accidentally. They don't realize they've been tuning their signal every second of their lives. Through emotions, through focus, through subconscious expectations. They think they're waiting on life to change, but life has been waiting on them to shift the signal they're broadcasting. The quantum field doesn't care about your words. It doesn't respond to desperate pleas. It doesn't reward the person who begs the loudest. It doesn't even respond to good intentions if they're wrapped in doubt. What it does respond to is coherence. When your internal frequency is consistent with what you claim to want. You can't say you want abundance while feeling fear every time you look at your bank account. You can't claim to trust the process while secretly bracing for everything to fall apart. The field reflects what you truly embody, not what you wish was true. For most people, this feels like a betrayal. They say, "But I'm trying so hard." And they are. They're pushing, striving, affirming, hoping. But the field isn't listening to their words. It's listening to their vibration. It's listening to the subtle, unconscious frequency that underlies every thought. If trying hard carries the frequency of lack, the field reflects lack. If effort carries the signal of fear, the field mirrors fear. But when effort emerges from deep alignment, the field responds with doors opening, opportunities appearing, synchronicities aligning like clockwork. Think of it like tuning a radio. If you're broadcasting on 98.7 FM, but the station you want to hear is on 105.3, no amount of screaming at the radio will make the music play. You have to tune your dial. And when you do, you don't have to force anything. The signal simply comes in. The quantum field is constantly playing infinite possibilities. But most people are so used to being tuned to the frequency of survival, fear, and scarcity that they never hear the broadcast of abundance, opportunity, and flow. And they don't realize they're the ones holding the dial. This is why people who appear lucky often aren't lucky at all. They're attuned. Their inner state broadcasts a signal of certainty, joy, openness, or love, and reality rearranges to match it. Meanwhile, others try to use the same words, copy the same actions, or force the same outcomes but fail, because the frequency isn't the same. It's like trying to replicate a song by reading the lyrics but ignoring the melody. Words without the right frequency are empty. The quantum field is sensitive. It responds not to surface signals, but to your core. If deep down you believe you are supported, life will show you support in 1,000 ways. If deep down you believe the world is hostile, the field will reflect that too. It doesn't take sides, it doesn't have preferences. It mirrors, it matches. It amplifies, it echoes back to you what you are broadcasting, consciously or unconsciously. And this is where everything begins to change. Because once you truly grasp that the field responds to your frequency, you stop trying to control the outside world. You stop waiting for external proof before you believe. Instead, you become deliberate about the frequency you hold. And when your state shifts, everything else eventually does too. That's not a philosophy. It's physics. Every moment you're alive, you're broadcasting. Through your emotional baseline, through the way you breathe, through the subtle tension in your body, through the stories you tell yourself in silence. Most people broadcast fear disguised as control, doubt disguised as realism, and lack disguised as ambition. But those who learn to shift their signal deliberately, those are the ones who make reality bend. Not because they're special, but because they understand the rule that governs the field. It responds to one thing only: frequency. It's the hidden pattern beneath every transformation story you've ever heard. Someone stops chasing, starts aligning. They stop demanding proof and start living as if the reality they want is already true. And slowly, the field rearranges around them. This isn't wishful thinking, it's resonance at work. Once you understand this, it becomes clear why effort alone doesn't guarantee results, why logic alone doesn't move mountains, and why some people manifest with ease what others struggle for years to achieve. The difference isn't what they want. It's the frequency they embody. You can't fool the field. You can't wear a mask of positivity while vibrating lack. The field hears the signal beneath the smile. And that's why true transformation isn't about trying harder. It's about tuning deeper. It's about shifting from the surface layer of thought into the core layer of state. Because when your state changes, your signal changes. And when your signal changes, the field responds. If you were to step outside of your story for just a moment and look at your life like a map, you'd see a perfect reflection of your dominant state. Every detour, every door that opened, every so-called coincidence, it all traces back to your signal. People often believe their struggles are proof that life is hard, that they're unlucky, or that the world doesn't care. But the truth is more precise than that. The quantum field is not punishing them, it's mirroring them. It's taking their most consistent emotional frequency and projecting it onto the stage of reality. This is both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because it means you can no longer hide behind the illusion that life is just happening to you. Liberating because once you understand this, you realize the power to shift everything was never outside of you. The field doesn't respond to how badly you want something, it responds to whether your energy already matches it. Wanting something intensely is often an admission that you don't have it, and that creates a signal of lack. That's why people can beg the universe for change for years and nothing happens. It's not that the universe isn't listening. It's listening too well. It's picking up the signal beneath the words. If the emotion underneath your desire is desperation, fear, or doubt, the field mirrors that. It can only reflect what is present, not what is pretended. This is why people who genuinely believe that good things are normal for them seem to receive them effortlessly. It's not because they're better. It's because their frequency is stable. They don't oscillate between hope and fear every 5 minutes. They live in the emotional signature of what they want long before it shows up. They are tuned to the station before the song begins to play. When the frequency is held steadily enough, the physical reality has no choice but to catch up. That's the secret few people talk about. Not because it's hidden, but because most people are too busy reacting to the outer world to realize how much power they have over their inner one. The problem is that most of us were trained to do the opposite. We were taught to respond to circumstances, not to create from state. When something goes wrong, our energy collapses. When something goes right, it expands. But that's backward. The field responds to the frequency we hold first, and then the circumstances arrange themselves accordingly. So when we let external events dictate our inner frequency, we're constantly chasing the reflection instead of adjusting the source. It's like looking into a mirror and trying to make the reflection smile before you do. The image doesn't change until you do. Think of it this way: the quantum field is like an echo chamber with perfect fidelity. Whatever you send out, it bounces back amplified. If you send out a signal of fear, it doesn't send fear to punish you. It amplifies fear because that's what it received. If you send out certainty, it amplifies certainty. The field doesn't have favorites, and it doesn't discriminate. It simply mirrors. Which means if you learn to hold the frequency deliberately, you can rewrite the story that the field is reflecting back at you. Not through willpower alone, but through state. Now, here's the part most people misunderstand. Shifting your frequency isn't about faking positivity. It's not about standing in front of a mirror chanting empty affirmations while your entire body vibrates with doubt. That doesn't work, not because affirmations are bad, but because the field listens to the vibration, not the vocabulary. Real frequency work means changing the emotional signature beneath your thoughts. It means entering the feeling state of the reality you want before it's visible. When you feel abundant before the money arrives, loved before the relationship begins, free before the door opens, that's when the field shifts. And no, this isn't about ignoring reality. It's about recognizing that reality is delayed feedback. By the time something shows up in the physical world, it's old news in terms of frequency. The field responded to your signal before the event appeared. So when people say, "I'll believe it when I see it," they're unknowingly reversing the order of creation. The field operates on, "I'll see it when I believe it, when I feel it, when I tune to it." If you wait for evidence before shifting your frequency, you're forever stuck chasing what you could have generated from within. But how do you actually shift the signal? It starts with awareness. You can't change what you're unaware of. Most people are so fused with their thoughts and emotions that they don't even realize what frequency they're broadcasting. They wake up anxious, scroll through negativity, rush through their day, and wonder why reality mirrors stress back to them. Becoming aware of your baseline state is the first crack in the armor. You start to notice the patterns, the way certain thoughts trigger certain emotions, the way your body contracts when you think of what's missing, the way your energy drops when you doubt yourself. That awareness is the beginning of sovereignty. The next step is deliberately generating the state you want to live in. You don't wait for the external world to give you permission. You generate it from within. For some, this begins with breath. For others, with visualization. For others still, with movement, music, or memory. The method is less important than the result, shifting the emotional signature of your field. Because when your frequency changes, everything starts to reorganize around it. People will tell you it's luck, timing, or coincidence. But deep down you'll know, it was alignment. The irony is that the field always wanted to respond to you. It's never been withholding. It's not a distant entity deciding who deserves what. It's like a mirror, it can only reflect the signal it receives. If you want to change the reflection, you don't fight the mirror. You change the expression on your face. That's the quiet power most people overlook. The real work isn't in forcing the world to bend. It's in tuning yourself to the version of reality you want to experience. When you do that consistently enough, reality doesn't have a choice but to echo it back. And here's the most beautiful part: once you understand this, life stops feeling like a series of obstacles and starts feeling like a canvas. You begin to see the direct correlation between your state and your circumstances. You stop blaming luck, fate, or other people. You start becoming deliberate about how you feel, not because you're trying to manipulate the world, but because you understand that how you feel is the language the universe understands best. Words are surface level. Frequency is fluent. This is why some of the most powerful shifts happen when you let go of trying to control outcomes. When you stop forcing and start resonating, the resistance dissolves. The field isn't stubborn, it's precise. And once your signal matches what you want, the gap between wanting and having collapses faster than logic can explain. People call it miracles. It's not. It's physics meeting alignment. The most extraordinary thing about the quantum field is that it doesn't respond to time the way we do. It doesn't operate on a linear timeline where you must wait years to see change. It responds to shifts in frequency now. The only reason it sometimes seems slow is because your signal is inconsistent. One day you're in alignment, and the next you're back in doubt. One moment you believe fully, and the next you're scanning your reality for proof it's working. That back and forth creates interference in the signal, like static on a radio. But the moment you learn to hold your frequency steadily, the field responds in ways that defy conventional explanation. What people call quantum leaps aren't sudden miracles. They're the inevitable result of sustained alignment. When someone truly embodies the feeling of what they desire as if it's already done, they collapse the distance between now and then. They stop broadcasting from the frequency of waiting, which is still lack, and start broadcasting from the frequency of having. The field mirrors that. That's why doors seem to swing open out of nowhere, why chance encounters feel perfectly timed, why opportunities emerge in ways no one could have predicted. It's not coincidence. It's resonance finally becoming visible. But here's the truth most people avoid: you cannot sustain a frequency you don't genuinely believe. You can't trick the field. You can't pretend to be confident when you're riddled with doubt and expect it to work long term. The frequency must be felt as real, not because it's forced, but because it's cultivated. That means doing the inner work to release the old emotional signatures you've been carrying, the ones that keep pulling you back to the frequency of lack. It means allowing old stories to dissolve so new ones can take their place. You can't hold the vibration of abundance if your identity is still built on scarcity. And that's where this shifts from surface level manifestation talk into something much deeper. To sustain a new frequency, you must become someone new. You can't simply visit the frequency of abundance for 5 minutes a day and spend the rest of your time vibrating in fear. The field listens to your dominant signal, not your occasional peak. Becoming the match for what you want means letting the version of you who lives in fear, doubt, or resistance fall away. That's uncomfortable. It's the part most people resist. But it's also the doorway to everything they've been asking for. The old version of you, the one who tries to control everything, who clings to certainty, who looks for proof before believing, can't walk through that doorway. You can't keep the old frequency and expect a new reality. So the process isn't just about imagining the future. It's about shedding everything in you that doesn't resonate with that future. That's why sometimes things fall apart before they come together. It's not the universe punishing you. It's the field making space for a new broadcast. The interference must be cleared for the signal to come through clearly. People often say, I tried to manifest, and it didn't work. But what they really mean is, I visited the frequency briefly, but my identity was still tuned to the old one. The field doesn't respond to temporary signals, it responds to consistent resonance. If you hold doubt more than belief, lack more than abundance, fear more than trust, then that becomes the dominant broadcast. The field isn't emotional. It doesn't judge. It simply matches the strongest signal. So how do you make the new frequency dominant? You live in it. You rehearse the feeling of it every day, not because you're forcing reality to bend, but because you're training your body and mind to normalize it. When something is emotionally normalized, it stops feeling far away. It becomes your baseline, and when it's your baseline, the field locks on and reflects it back. At that point, what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. Here's the paradox: the moment you stop needing it to happen in order to feel it, it starts happening. When you need reality to change first, your signal is still anchored in lack. But when you generate the feeling first and let reality follow, the field finally has a clear frequency to mirror. It's like flipping a switch. Everything that felt heavy begins to move, synchronicities multiply, people show up, resources align, timelines shift. It looks like magic, but it's simply resonance finally unblocked. And this is where your power truly lies, not in control, not in manipulation, in frequency. When you master your state, you master your experience. You don't need to convince the field to cooperate. It always has been. You only need to align your signal with the reality you choose to live in. This is why the most powerful people are often the calmest. They don't chase, they tune. They don't beg, they resonate. They understand that the universe speaks one language, and that language is frequency. But sustaining this alignment requires something simple and profound: trust. Trust that the field is not working against you. Trust that your signal is heard the moment it's broadcast. Trust that the evidence may lag, but the response is instant. If you keep checking your reality like a tracking number, you pull your signal back into lack. But when you trust, when you hold the state without looking over your shoulder, reality eventually has no choice but to rearrange. It must. The field always responds. And here's a truth worth engraving into your mind: the field responds not to the strongest person, but to the clearest signal. Clarity beats intensity. Coherence beats effort. It's not about shouting your desires at the universe. It's about whispering a consistent frequency into it with your very being. Your thoughts, emotions, breath, and presence all become part of that broadcast. When they align, reality listens. So imagine this: you wake up tomorrow, and instead of reaching for your phone, you reach for your state. You center your breath. You feel gratitude, not because everything is perfect, but because gratitude is the frequency you choose. You feel abundance, not because it's already here physically, but because you trust it's matching you energetically. You stop begging reality to change and start broadcasting the frequency of the reality you want. You stop being a receiver of random signals and become a deliberate transmitter. That single shift is the beginning of everything. This is not philosophy. It's how the quantum field has always worked. Every great transformation begins not with external force, but with internal coherence. When your inner world stabilizes into the frequency of what you want, your outer world eventually bows to match it. It has no other option. The mirror must reflect the face it sees. The quantum field responds to one thing only: not your hopes, not your fears, not your perfectly worded affirmations. It responds to your frequency. When you master that, you stop chasing change and start creating it. You stop reacting and start resonating. And when you resonate consistently enough, the world stops feeling like something happening to you and starts feeling like something happening through you. This is the hidden power you've carried all along. Not out there, in here. Not in the noise of the world, but in the signal you emit every moment of your existence. The field is listening right now, not tomorrow, not someday. The question is, what are you broadcasting?